Namaste yogis, welcome to my first YouTube video, the first official one, an introduction to the different styles of yoga. So run through each different style just briefly, just so you get a little bit of an idea of what the difference is between Vinyasa and Ashtanga, the difference between Bikram and Iyengar, just giving a little bit of an overview so when you're looking at that really daunting class schedule you can choose where you want to start and what it means by flow. I'll start with stuff that I have taught and I've been trained in, and I'll work my way through to things that maybe I've practiced just a couple of times or maybe things that I haven't practiced before. So I'll start with a Vinyasa practice. Vinyasa is what I started my practice in. It's what I did my 200-hour training in as well. For me, it's the one that I resonate with the most just because I feel like I get a little bit more freedom when I'm practicing it. It's a bit more about flow. So traditionally a vinyasa means the process of stepping or jumping back to a low plank chaturanga, coming to an upward dog, and then back down to a downward dog. And that can be chucked in at any point in the sequence. But basically you get a flow either with both legs or one leg. And as you complete the flow, you get a little bit more, you're building a little bit more heat, and you get a little bit more movement in your body. For me, the practice is just that little bit more modifiable, which means that you can either drop your knees and make it a bit easier in your Chaturanga Dandasana, or things like awakening yoga where you can add a push-up in your after your Chaturanga as well, just giving you that little bit more strength. So I think it's probably the most adaptable. It's definitely in the West world the most popular style at the moment. Yeah, and it's a lot of fun, so I urge you to check out Vinyasa 100%. The next style I'd like to talk about is Hatha. So Hatha, Sun and Moon Yoga, is probably the most traditional form. Hatha Yoga itself is more overall than it is just the asana practice that we're talking about today. Hatha Yoga itself comes from a book called the Hatha Yoga Parapika, and that itself is very in depth about specifics of how you should practice yoga. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is Hatha Yoga that you would see on a class schedule. The Hatha Yoga that you would see on a class schedule is a little bit more, I would say more intense than Vinyasa, only because you don't have that relief point. So Hatha Yoga is probably focusing a little bit more on one or two postures and all the different variants of it. So Utkatasana chair pose, you've got normal Utkatasana, you've got Utkatasana on your tippy toes, revolved Utkatasana, one arm to the ground. You've got all these different variations and you'll hold them for a longer period of time as well. So Hatha Yoga has sort of an intention of building a lot of strength in the body so that you can sit there for meditation for a long period of time. And it's a lot more traditional. I really like it. Sometimes I find it a little bit too slow paced for me, but if you're looking for something that's a little bit more alignment based, Hatha is going to be the one for you. I'll also point out that the sun salutations are completely different for these three first styles I'll be talking about, so Vinyasa, Ashtanga and Hatha. Check in for my next video, which is all about sun salutations, Surya Namaskar, and seeing the difference between them in a little bit more of an in-depth way. The next style I'll be talking about is Ashtanga. So there are two main series in Ashtanga. You've got the beginner series and the intermediate series. Beginner is used very lightly. It's an incredibly hard practice. So it's very strict in that the counting and the breaths and the holds are very specific, and no matter where you practice it, it's exactly the same. So traditional Ashtanga, you would find an Ashtanga guru or an Ashtanga teacher, and you'd work through each posture, but you'd only go as far as you physically could, and then once you got to your struggle pose, you'd stay with that pose until you mastered it before you move on to the next one. It's kind of a practice that you'd almost spend a lifetime trying to master, and I know certain people do. In a modern studio, people tend to mix it up a little bit, so you might get like a fusion class or you might get an Ashtanga class. The sequence itself is normally an hour and a half, so if you've got an hour class, you'll need to modify it a little bit. A lot of people tend to modify it in a normal studio, so if you are looking to try the actual practice, try and find an Ashtanga based studio. The sequence is really difficult. I've only gone through the beginner series once on my 300-hour training. It's very hard. I can't do all of it. It's really hard. and to the point where the floor series you'll be in Jano Sirsasana, so where you've got one leg in and one leg out folding forward. You'll do one leg and then you'll do a Vinyasa, and then you'll do the other leg and then you'll do a Vinyasa. So it's building a lot of heat through the whole practice, yeah, which is pretty crazy. I know a lot of people that use the Ashtanga series as their home practice to do each day. A lot of people say that they like to do it because it means they can turn off their brain because they know exactly the sequence that's coming. So that's an option as well. If you want to do that, that's completely fine. You can type in Ashtanga into YouTube or Alo Moves or whatever you choose to use for your practice. And you can give a little series guest sort of try there. Just know that the alignment is pretty specific, so if you do want to go down that route, I would recommend going to a studio to try it. Yin! So I have to do a little shout out to Yin. I always sort of forget that I'm Yin trained. Yin is a bit different to the other styles we've been talking about, a lot because of the style, but the rest are based on Indian philosophy, and Yin is based off Chinese philosophy. So while restorative yoga and all of the other kind of yogas that we've been talking about are based on your chakras and your nadis all through your body, your little energy channels, Chinese medicine and Yin yoga is based off meridians. So the idea that if you're stretching, you'll be stretching out a certain fascia, which is the sheath that holds your muscle. And there's meridian lines that go through there. So whatever you're stretching, that meridian line might go into an organ and it might improve organ function, or improve your mood and things like that. Yin, traditionally you're holding the postures for anywhere between 2 and 5 minutes. Some people hold it heaps longer, but it's about relaxing into that posture. If you're going to do a Yin class, and I'll pop one up on the channel, you want to be holding each posture only at 60% of your range. So as opposed to going all the way in as deep as you can and holding it and feeling that sort of shake in the muscle, you want to give yourself a little bit of range and that you can stay there a bit longer, preventing injury. I have a little bit of a soft spot for Yin. I think it's really a really beautiful practice. So if you've got the opportunity to go to a Yin class, while it does sound boring, you will feel amazing afterwards. It's an incredible practice. Okay, now we're coming into the practices that I maybe haven't done as many times. So I've got 2 more to mention. First is Bikram, second is Iyengar. So we'll start with Bikram. I've practiced Bikram once before in Bali. So Bikram's practiced in a room that's heated to 41 degrees, and I think it's 40% humidity as well. It's supposed to sort of emulate being in India, but I've trained in India and it isn't like a Bikram room. So I guess it depends in India where you go, but I practiced it once in Bali, and I will say that it was pretty transformational. It was a really cool practice. You sweat a lot, like think of how much you might be able to sweat ever and then double it. You'll sweat insane. So if you're standing up and you're trying to grab your big toes, your hand will keep slipping away from your foot because you're so sweaty, so you have to use a towel. It's completely different to anything else that I've practiced. It's a set sequence as well, like Ashtanga. I think it's 26 postures in the Bikram sequence. But yeah, it's pretty incredible. It's an incredible practice. I will say it's probably been tainted a little bit recently. So Netflix has released a documentary called Bikram, which is talking a little bit about the practice and about the man, and about the allegations that have come out about him recently. So he's been accused of being a sexual predator, and for, you know, assault and for rape and things like that. I recommend you watch the documentary and you make your own kind of judgment from it. I would say that I would probably still practice the practice, but I don't ever wish to meet the man. It's completely up to you what you want to do, but just make sure that you're practicing somewhere safe, and that you feel safe in the environment too. And if you don't, you're welcome to leave a class. You're always welcome to leave a class. So yeah, do practice it, but yeah, practice safely. Finally is Iyengar. So I would feel remiss not talking about Iyengar, but I have to admit I'm an Iyengar virgin. I've never practiced. I would quite like to. It's like Bikram, it's a practice that's come out in the 70s, so it's a little bit more of a newer practice as opposed to Hatha, which has been around literally forever. Iyengar, I should practice it before kind of coming out and saying anything about it, but from what I've heard, BK Iyengar was the kind of person who would practice the postures and create alignment based on how energy felt going through his body, which is super magical and amazing. But if you're going to practice it, just make sure that the alignment works for your body. So being trained in Vinyasa originally, it's all about safe practices, and so Iyengar might not, in my opinion, be the safest practice if you aren't an experienced yogi. It isn't a set sequence. Iyengar, I'm pretty sure, has said that there's over 200 postures that can be chosen, but I also believe that Iyengar is only practiced in Iyengar studios. So I'd love to one day, but I just haven't come across it in a studio that I've been teaching or I've been practicing in. So yeah, give it a go. Let me know in the comments a bit more about Iyengar, if you've practiced it, if you are an Iyengi, or yeah, if you know a lot about it. I would love to hear about it, and hopefully I'll practice it soon and then we can all talk about it. So they're the main styles that I probably wanted to go over. So you've got your Vinyasa, your Hatha, Ashtanga, Yin, Bikram and Iyengar. This isn't to say they're the only styles, thousands of styles. Thousands. So you've got chair yoga, you know, you've got kundalini, you've got goat yoga, wine yoga, you know, restorative, which is similar to yin but based on Indian instead. You've got, what else? You've got, you know, any kind of yoga that you could have thought about under the sun, it has probably been created and you can probably find it somewhere. So even I am working on my own kind of yoga at the moment. It's a gym ring yoga. So one of the big issues that I see in yoga is it's all push and not enough pull. So I'm hoping to release that either this, towards the end of this year probably. But yeah, anyone's creating yoga at the moment, and you can too. If you have any questions about this video or the things I talked about, please feel free to shoot them through to me. I love answering questions, so chuck the comments below. You can shoot me a message on Instagram at alexandra.yogini, on Facebook at alexandra.yogini. You can jump on my website as well, www.alexandrayogini.com, or even email me alexandra@alexandrayogini.com. I'd be more than happy to have a chat to anybody, and yeah, chuck a like, chuck a subscribe. We've got new videos coming out every Monday, so namaste yogis, I'll see you soon.